enter the realm of KSBM Radio's creation. Student-led from inception to narration. Crafting content from dawn until dusk. All students involved in the work and the fuss. In the heart of Townview where voices reside. Student-led discussions where ideas collide. From interviews with leaders, peers, and businesses. Just watch us work, creating innovative content. Every aspect managed with student finesse. From podcast production to social media press. No task too daunting, no challenge too grand. KSBM Radio, we taking a stand. KSBM Radio, students leading the way. Every task idea, we seize the day. Witness now as all of our efforts break through. KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Come closer to the music.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
Hello, and welcome to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview. I'm your host, Goes, and these are my fellow hosts,
Emilia,
Dulce,
and Terrence.
And today we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. J.R. Huerta, businessman and alum and class of '89.
Mr. Huerta was a part of the Minority to Majority, or otherwise known as Eminem transfer program, designed to promote diversity and integration by allowing students from predominantly minority schools to participate in majority white schools, giving them access to specialized programs and advanced educational opportunities.
Mr. Huerta has been an integral part of the Dallas community for decades. He is the founder and executive director of the Dallas Youth Sports, a proud advocate for youth development, and a leader in various community organizations, including Dallas Parks and Recreation Board.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Huerta. We're more excited to learn about your journey and your incredible community contributions. Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners before we start today?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say good morning to the future alumni of the Business and Management Center, class of 2025 in the room. I want to say congratulations on that, but also want to say big shout out to my wife is here, alumni. But she graduated in '91, a year early from high school, so that's an amazing journey on her part also. But thank you for having me.
Okay. So let's get started. For our first question, what was your childhood like, and where did you grow up?
So I am a Dallas, born and raised in Dallas. Lived here all my life. I think I have moved about 5 miles from every home within 5 miles from my childhood home to where I live now. So it's always Dallas has always been close to me. But growing up in South Dallas, where I grew up, now known as the Cedars, if you know where the Cedars area is at, it has the Dallas police station there now. That neighborhood was predominantly second-generation Hispanics, which predominantly known as Chicanos. So it was a Chicano neighborhood, and we were dominated by Chicanos there. And just growing up there, it was just life. We were just American. We didn't know Spanish. We're the no sabe kids, right? When you guys kind of a word to you guys. And most of us didn't learn Spanish till basically we're adults as 20-year-olds because we just knew that English was our first language. And just growing up there really probably started shaping my life to what it is now. And I'm not realizing it was doing that, but it did. It did a lot just growing up in South Dallas.
Oh, okay.
And what were some of your favorite memories like growing up there?
So we lived by Old City Park, which is Heritage Park now. And just being right there across Old City Park School, just being there, we would go out there and explore the old houses and kind of run around and kind of, run the streets, kind of, it was our neighborhood. It was our predominant neighborhood. Everybody there knew each other, so it was never any issues. But there was about 10 blocks that we were all kind of knew each other. And just growing up there really, really helped me understand the Chicano culture and how we were who we were, and we just kind of didn't mix with any other people. It was just our life there.
And we're back. Were there any significant influences in your life as a young person?
Yeah. So that's I'm sorry if I moved. That's an interesting question. I did have one of my main influences was definitely my dad, and that's because the way he worked. So every time I looked up, my dad was gone, and I always wondered where's he at. But he was always working because he worked almost every day except Sunday. Sunday was his Sunday fun day, right? And so we would go to different places on Sunday and try to get to know what was going on. But he was my main influence for sure. At age 12, I started working with him. But I had two big mentors, and one was a Jewish man named James Peterson who hired me at 15 years old to go work at his convenience store, and he taught me all kinds of stuff about business and how we do different things and how to operate. he was an entrepreneur, and now that I'm an entrepreneur, I realize that because of him, I learned all my trades, all the stuff that I do now. It was really a great mentorship that he did for me, just influencing me on what I was going to do later in life.
How would you say both your dad and Mr. Peterson shaped who you are today?
It was with the work ethic. I'm still to this day, even though I don't really have a day job. My job is fun because I do sports and I'm always involved with sports. It's either at the parks or whether it's the Texas Rangers or Dallas Cowboys. I'm always involved with sports. Everything I do is geared towards sports. So I don't have a job, but I work every day, and just having both of them show me that you get up every day. My dad would get up every day and work 12-hour days, but James Peterson would also get up every day, and he was at his store every day of the week. Maybe it was only for 3 hours.
How did your growing up in South Dallas, how did that influence your view on education and community?
That's a very interesting question, and the reason I say this because South Dallas, I never knew South Dallas I wasn't getting educated. I always talk about that I just thought it was just school, right? And we're learning basic stuff, math and English, and all of our teachers looked like us. So it was like, we're learning from people that know. But as soon as DISD started our program, the Eminem program, which is a minority to majority program, my mom signed us up real quick and got us out of, unfortunately, South Dallas and to get us educated. So we would get in a bus every day and drive 20 miles, which is about 40-minute drive in a bus to go to Lakewood Elementary. If you think about where Lakewood Elementary is now, and Gaston Middle School is where we went to school, and we learned some better. We had a better education, and that's hard to say that's where we had to go all that far to learn something new.
Would you say that you experienced some culture shocks between the two schools?
Yeah, definitely, because in our school we were. In our school, we had a classroom. There was 20 kids in the classroom. If we had one white kid, that was a lot. I mean, that was like, what are they doing here, right? And most of our schools were black and brown, and majority in our neighborhood, of course, it was Hispanics. It was the Chicanos that were in the school. So even having 5 black kids was a big overstatement. So when we got on a bus, there was 2 buses that would show up to our school every day to pick us up in front of Old City Park, and one bus is always say there was 2 buses, but one bus was for brown bus and one bus was the black bus. And when you think about that we segregated ourselves when they were trying to put us in a classroom together to bring us all together. But we would just get on those buses, and you knew you rode on the brown bus and you knew you rode on the black bus. It was just something that we all identified as, and going to school. And people always say, well, why was that? Why we are? It was just our neighborhood. We just stayed on our side of the street. It was just how we did it. Even our neighborhood being only the 8 to 10 blocks, it was predominantly Chicano. But when you went a little further south, it's where the Black Americans were at, and that's where they grew up at. And we just didn't. We saw each other at the store, but we didn't mix. It was just something that you naturally did. And why? You have to ask my parents. You have to ask their parents why that happened. But when we got to school at Lakewood, both buses would pull up. And next thing I know, my best friend at the time was Branche Valentine. He lives in Garland now. And after Branche, what's up from JR? We would get off, and we were friends at school. He was in every class I was in, so we stuck together. We sat next to each other in school, in the classroom, and we went from school to school, different classes, and just stuck together because we figured if they're going to jump one, they got to jump me too. So it was just kind of one of those things. But going to those schools, you think, well, people are going to be racist against us, but they really weren't. The white kids were not, I'll say that, majority of the white kids were not
majority.
Bad to us. They were good, and they were friends of ours. We actually found more racism in people from Vietnam, because the war had just ended. This is the 80s, right? So they were more prejudiced towards us than they were against the white kids, which we didn't understand. Because we all thought we were all dark-colored people, and it just wasn't that. But we saw a lot of that. Refugees that were more racist towards, especially me. And I don't know why. I can never figure that out. But, that's just something that they'll have to live with, not me. So.
I was going to ask a follow-up question, but next question. As a business magnet alum, what was business education like when you attended?
So business was nothing like this. You walk in this building, you have I think there's 800 to 1,000 kids here. Maybe I'm wrong. Business Management Center maybe had 500, maybe a few, maybe a little bit more, maybe 1,200. I'm saying that now I'm thinking about it. It was actually a pretty big scope, but we were located at the old Kozer Tech High School, which is on Pearl. It became the Business and Management Center. And if you tell you a little history about that building, Culture Tech was the Chicano high school for Dallas. So if you were brown, you were Chicano, you're from West Dallas, you went to Culture Tech. It's just how it happened. Everybody went there, and all the Hispanic Chicanos were there. And then it became the Business and Management Center High School for many years. And it was actually, that was probably more of a culture shock to me than anything else because it was predominantly black. It was probably 90% black, 10% brown. And that was because people from what we call Oak Cliff now, Carter High School and Kimball High School, they didn't want to go to these schools. They wanted to go somewhere, so parents sent them to the Business and Management Center because it was too far. And we kind of went there also because my home school at the time was Madison High School in South Dallas by Fair Park. And my mom didn't want me to go there because I probably ended up getting in fights. So naturally, I applied for Business and Management Center, and that's where I went. And going there really probably changed my life a little bit more. First and foremost, I got to meet my wife there. That's probably the smartest thing I've ever done was marry her. Because she is the smartest one in the family, and she keeps me on track most of the time. So we were talking about that yesterday, that she's definitely the smartest out of both of us because she married me. So that's what I tell her. That's what I told her the other day. But it was just one of those things that meeting her also helped shape my life without knowing it at the time. Now that I'm 50 plus, I realized that, it's her who helped shape my life. And probably vice versa, she'll say the same thing. Maybe. We'll have to ask her later on. But just that business and management culture and being able to come in. And we have a gentleman a teacher named Mr. Crawford. He always said, it's the Business and Management Center High School. And if we said anything else anytime, he would get on us because it's the Business and Management Center High School. And so we learned that, and we learned to be proud of it. And all the business ideas that they had also helped shape who I was because we got to do a lot of background check. We had clusters at the time, which is DECO. DECO was my cluster. It was my program. And so I learned how to operate business from there and just kind of learn what we're doing and what kind of difference minorities can make in the industry. And it was hard. It was heartfelt because at the time we didn't have we did have mentors, but we did have Hispanic mentors at the time in our society. But without knowing it, they were gatekeepers. And if you don't know anything about gatekeepers, it's really that. People that only learned, kept it to themselves, and they will give you the tidbits so you could do what they needed you to do, and they could excel their life and not excel everybody else. So we had a lot of gatekeepers, and it took us a long time to realize that. And now that I'm a little older, I try not to gatekeep for anybody. Anybody can come on a table. They want to learn, they can. If they don't learn, I only can teach you, and if you want, you either take it in or you don't. But that was part of my education at Business and Management Center. So
did you only have DECA, or were there any other organizations?
DECA's the one I remember because Miss Johnson, she was my teacher, and we were there for 3 hours. I had other stuff that I did, but it was just I remember her because we were always in there learning different things, and just her. She was from what is now it still is, Singing Hills area in Oak Cliff. And so she brought a lot of life to our class, I can tell you that. But most of our classes, we're sat like this. We're sat in tables and people like Lorena Ramirez and Travis Bush were on my side for many years. And it was just one of those things that we all it became a group. So it was something real nice.
Okay. And were you aware of the planning for Townview when you were in school? We do know that the construction began before you graduated because Townview was completed in 1995.
At the time, when you're 17, 18, you really don't pay attention to what's going to happen to your school, and you really don't, you're not with the program. So, no, I didn't know. And then when I heard about this school, and I'm like, what happened? Why are we shutting them all down? And DISD made a financial decision. It's really ultimately what they did. Brought all the health here, business, all the clusters that are here were all individual buildings at one time, and those schools were spread out across the city. And so they decided to bring it all here. I think there's 6 clusters here, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong. And kind of brought them all into one school and made it a little bit more efficient, but it lost. I don't know how I don't know if the school spirit still the same, because business management was a school, and we had a basketball team, and we did all kinds of stuff. So it was a little bit of a school spirit. I don't know if Townview, I know it's a Townview big band won the Battle of the Bands this past weekend, and I know it's a big band, and just one of those things. But I don't know what the school spirit's like. It's with the cluster, so I guess it's different houses, right? We're doing the Harry Potter things, something like that. So, I imagine it still had it, but just business and management was its own thing. So.
Well, they no longer have any sports teams. So
No
Correct.
sports.
no sports.
Hopefully they bring that back, though. Because I think that would help with the school spirit.
Yeah.
Especially in basketball, it's probably the easiest one, the house, because you don't have any fields here. But I know that most of the schools, you can go to your home school and play sports, because I'm a big sports guy, so I know the rules. My daughter was at Trinity Garza. My oldest son was at Trinity Garza, so he played Kimball High School baseball there. So, yeah.
So going back to the Eminem program, how did that shape your view on education?
It took me a long time to realize that we weren't educating as well in the southern sector of Dallas. When you think red line, if you know anything about history of minority neighborhoods, we're just a red line. So we got a big red line in Dallas, which is Interstate 30. It goes all across Dallas. Everything south of there is Oak Cliff, Pleasant Grove, South Dallas, Fair Park. One thing we never had was top schools. We never had banks. We never had food. And now we're getting to that point a little bit where we're a little bit better with that. But our education was bad. And now that we got Townview, that's really only a half a mile south of there, but we got Trinity Garza at Mountain View. We got other schools. The Adamson is one of the highest P-Tech schools in Dallas. So is Sunset. Molina's, I don't know if you heard about Molina's. It came up this year. It has the highest rated college rated students this year that graduated that were ready for college. Big article just came out about that. But then Carter's also doing some of the same programming, and so is Roosevelt, that they're really trying to educate their kids a little different, because the ISD with Huerta as the superintendent, and maybe it fell during his day. Maybe we're giving him too much credit. Sorry, Mr. Huerta. But he got the choice schools. And the choice schools is something that really Dallas has done very well in education. And that's why now I see the view of my education. It's like, man, we're doing something great. DSD actually has an enrollment of 1,500 extra students this year, what was predicted. I don't know if you guys know that or not. But that brings your budget up. More students, the more money we get. $13.3 million with 1,500 kids. So that's a big number that can be spread out throughout the whole district. That's important for education and what we're trying to do with the ISD.
So, were there any challenges you faced as an Eminem bus transfer student? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Not maybe more just a race challenge, but when I went to those schools, when I went to Lakewood Elementary and I went to Gaston Middle School across town, all the teachers were actually really good to us. And they were all white male, a lot of white female, but a lot of white male that were teaching us. And back then, teachers wore suits and they had on ties and stuff like that. And they never really shut us out. They taught us just like they did everybody else. So, I never saw anything that was changing. The culture was just being with a lot of white kids, learning, what rock and roll was and heavy metal and stuff like that. In my house, we're playing, a little bit Ramon Ala and Tejano, or at the time, and I get more Mexicano now, right, Norteño. But at the time, it was just, they're jamming, they're rocking, and they're wearing earrings and long hair, and it's just kind of learning their style. But a lot of them became my friends. I mean, one of my high school friends was a white gentleman named Travis Bush, and I mentioned his name earlier, and he was a skater and a rocker and long hair, and it was kind of weird, but he was just, he just became one of my good friends just because like I said, I've never turned anybody away. I never judge a person who they are. You come in, you're one of my friends, you want to join, let's do it, and that just kind of helped me. So to me, there was no real culture shock, just learning different ways of music and stuff like that. Yeah.
And what lessons from your experiences at Big Business Magnet and the Eminem program still resonate with you today?
Just that, I see that I have a lot of friends. So and all races and all walks of life, and it's really cool to know that I have that. And anybody who's worked with me for many years, whether it's fun or team effort or on the park board, they realize that I can get along with everybody on the table, which helps bring people to the table. And even in the political world that we have now, people don't want to come to the table because you're a red or blue. I'm definitely purple. And I say that proudly because I want to work with everybody because we get more things done, especially for our young people. And that's ultimately, we got to teach them that there's more to, Facebook and being on TikTok. And yes, people are making money doing that. But if we're educating our kids right, and if you don't go to college, it's okay. And I'm a guy who always says, you don't have to go to college. One of my first questions when I met you this morning, where are you going to school? And it's okay if you don't go to college. But the thing is, you got to have a plan to get a higher education if you don't go to college. So if you're not going to go to college, you're not going to get a 4-year degree. And some teachers don't like me saying that. But if you're good with your hands, you got to either go to an art school, you got to go to plumbing, you got to go electrical, you got to go get a trade so you can make a living. If you don't, you will all be at the bottom, and it takes you a long time to get to where you need to be at, whether it's your job or your financial wealth that you want to have. And I always tell young people like you guys, what can you bring? How can you make generational wealth? It's something the white man has done for years. How generational wealth is made. First and foremost, you buy your home. If you don't have anything, if your parents don't teach you, I'm teaching you right now, buy your home. Live in the home you're going to buy because that makes you wealthy. When me and my wife, she's right there, she's the one who convinced me. She said, well, if we're gonna get married and we're going to do this, we're not renting out. We're going to buy a house. And I wasn't a house buyer. My parents were never house buyers. They were renters for 20, 30 years. And so we bought the house. We got married. We bought our first home. We moved into our home. That made us be who we are now because now we have money. We own something. And no matter what happens, they can't take that away from you. You got to pay your taxes, but they can't take it away from you. And that just made us realize, all right, let's buy a second home and a third home. And just like that. And so we bought a different home and we rented out the one that we used to live in. It just kind of built our wealth. And now that our kids are college educated and they got their own lives, we're not planning to leave them anything. And that's the thing you got to think about when you're thinking. We're not planning to leave. They always get mad at us because we're not going to leave you anything. We're going to leave our grandkids something. Because we educated you to make your own living. But our grandkids now need to be educated. So we're going to leave them something to be educated. And hopefully they do the same thing. They don't leave it for their kids, they leave it for the next generation. That's how the white American has made the old money, when we call about old money, the Rockefellers, and stuff like that. When you think about all the old money, J.P. Morgan, how did they get their money? They created wealth in their life. And that's what you need to do if you can, or if your parents are doing that for you now, please take advantage of it so that way you can create your wealth later on in life. Sorry, long answer.
No, that's a good answer. That's a good answer.
So you founded Dallas Youth Sports, or DYS, in 2004. What inspired you to create this organization?
And people ask me that all the time. I've been a sports coach, a baseball coach for 30 years. I started coaching, and that's really where it got started. Started coaching, and then we started having our own kids, and we figured, we're gonna get going. But then we realized that there was no league here in Oak Cliff. And I was asked by the Dallas Rec Center, Kids Springs Rec Center, to help start a baseball program because I wanted somewhere for my son to play. I went to ask them. They said, well, if you want your son to play, you can start a program. And so me and my wife got to put a team together. The first year, we had 36 kids that signed up to play baseball here in Oak Cliff. Oh. And people say, oh, man, that's awesome. But think about it. That's only 3 teams, right? Yeah. How can 3 teams play each other the whole season? And they were all different ages. So it kind of didn't make. So we ended up making 3 teams. Went to go play at the J.C. Saragosa Rec Center in West Dallas, and that we joined them and we played with them, and that's where we started. Well, last year was our second best year. Ended up having over 4,000 kids play sports with us, but we end up having 13,816. I know this number because I was looking it up the other day to answer a question on a program that either played sports, received a Christmas gift from us, and or receive a backpack or other community events that we have. Because we take information, right? We're big information. We want to know where you're coming from, what zip code you're from, who needs help. And so we gather information all the time. And so we know that 13,816 kids came through one of our programs last year. And that's an amazing number when you think about what we're doing here in Oak Cliff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How'd you become a baseball coach?
Oh, man. My wife hates when I answer this question. We're sitting at our new home, or maybe before our new home, and my cousin came to me and said, hey, you gonna help me? You gonna help me coach baseball? I said, nah, I ain't gonna help you coach baseball. I got no kids, I'm not gonna do it. He says, we could have adult beverages after we coach. And that's how it started. He got me with his ass, so we will coach in the morning and watch games back at the tailgate in front of at the park and just enjoy our afternoon. That's how it started. So that's how I got into coaching and been in it ever since. So it's just funny, but how we got started. But that's why.
How has your vision for DYS grown since its beginning?
We didn't have a vision. We just thought we needed somewhere our son to play. Let's go do a league. We'll play a game. We'll go back home, or we'll sit there and watch the rest of the games. And we needed a league. But as our program started progressing, in 2009, which is about 5 years later, the city of Dallas went bankrupt. They had to start cutting back. And the first two things they cut back to make their budget, libraries, they decided they're going to close down libraries and only have them limited time, and then stop youth sports. They said, we're done. We're pulling those two programs. And that was us. So when the director came and said, we're not going to have baseball anymore, I said, what do you mean? And I was mad. And so then I said, well, talk to my wife. Let's keep going. We'll go independent. And so we went independent, started renting out fields. The first week before the first games, I go borrow the bases like I've been doing for years to put them out for the game. He says, you can't use our bases. Why can't I use our bases? Well, because they're city property, and this is not a city program anymore. So we have to go buy bases, and we have to go buy all the stuff that you don't even think about that's going to be overhead for you. And as the program started going, it started building up, it started getting legs, we realized that we were doing more than than sports. And we had a big mission, we're going to change kids, and we're going to put them into baseball, we're going to MLB players, and it was kind of a crazy mission, right? But as we sat down, me and my wife sat down, we figured out that there was really 5 pillars to our mission. And so we wrote 5 paragraphs for these 5, which is, if you read our mission now, our mission is to promote education, leadership, discipline, health, and wellness. And we knew those were our 5 pillars. And so when we built our mission, we knew that we wanted to talk to kids about education, because sports is science, it is math, it's reading, it's learning plays and stuff like that. And then you think about the discipline that it goes to be an athlete. You got to have discipline and all that. And most people become leaders. And I always say become leaders. Mainly our females have the biggest leadership improvement in sports. If you go back and you look at the history of CEOs in America, all female CEOs in America played varsity sports. That's a big thing to think about, what difference it makes for females. But in health, there's health involved because you stay healthy, you're working out, and wellness. It's more about mental wellness. It's not about, people think about that, but we always talk about mental stuff too, because it does make you relax, makes you think different ways. So those became our 5 pillars, and ever since then we've grown from that. And now we have another thing that we brought in here recently within the last 6 years was equality. That we also want to be equal to all people, regardless of level of play, who they are, where they're from. Everybody's accepted in our program regardless. And a lot of parents, we get a lot of kids that are 11 years old, have never thrown a baseball, come to our program. And it's pretty bad when they go out there with kids that have been playing for 5 years. It's a big difference in the level of play. But we get our coaches to make sure that they're getting the work they need, show them the techniques and stuff like that. I just recently took on a 9-year-old team because we didn't have a coach for it, so I raised my hand, I volunteered to do it. Most of the kids don't know how to throw the ball. We've been going for about a month, and they're getting better. They're getting better, and we lost our first game, and our expectations are not high this season. I let them know right away, we're not do as well as we're gonna work hard, and by the end of the season we'll do better. But the parents were really happy about the first game, and me being a competitor, I was not happy, but I saw all their faces, and I was like, I can't. They're happy. Yeah. We scored 3 runs. We got blown out. We scored 3 runs. We got blown out real bad. And the other team scored way more than that. But they were happy because their kids were making plays. They were running the bases. So it's just something that you got to take in perspective, that everybody's at a different level of play. But how, as a student, the teacher tell you, when everybody comes in the room, they're not all the same level of education. But you got to find a way to put them all together. And when you get at the end, if you all can pass the test or win the championship, you did something right by just bringing them all into the fold. So
like you mentioned, like the 5 pillars that your the Dallas Youth Sports had, like, how do y'all like promote that through y'all's sports? And like, if you can give any like further detail.
So when I coach, and a lot of people, and I try to talk to all my coaches, all the volunteer coaches that we have, I don't handle the, we have a director of sports operations now, and he kind of handles all the coaches, and he talks to them. But when I come into the room during the meeting, I try to talk to them about not the logistics of the sports, but how we talk to kids. It took me a long time to realize that when I first started doing it, I was old school. My dad was old school, and it was always like, you don't know anything about Hispanic culture. We don't tend to be nice when we're telling people that they're bad. We come up with nicknames. And so I had to learn not to, El Gordo or something like that, say something like that, more about educating them. So when I talk to parents that their child needs, instead of them saying your child doesn't know how to play sport, I tell them your child needs more practice or more work. So you need to go out there and practice with them and teach them just a couple things to teach them. So it's one of those things with our pillars. Just knowing how to communicate with people is really important. No matter what you do at Business and Management Center, we had a class called speech. I don't know if y'all got that class here or not. And we had to basically put a paragraph together, memorize it, and you talk to people about what you were trying to educate them that day. And that's where it really, I learned how to maybe do a little bit of my public speaking, which is kind of get in front and talk to people about what's your favorite color. And you had to go for 3 minutes. And if you couldn't go for 3 minutes, the teacher would be mad at you and just talk about why this is your favorite color or whatever we're talking about, whatever the item was that day. And just that kind of deal is just talk to our coaches and make sure they understand where you want them to be at the end of the program. It's not always about winning. Ultimately, if you're a competitor, it is about winning, but it's how you get there. And just trying to build the culture around what you're trying to do. It's really what you want to do. Even with youth sports from age 4 to age 15 to the adults, because those same coaches that we have now are 25-year-old men that are, when I first started, are now educating our kids, or they're coaches for our field. So that means that we did something right because they're coming back to our program as alumni and want to teach their kids also.
And can you share a specific example of how these values have impacted a young person's life?
When I think about that question, and it's more personal with me because my kids have all gone through my program. I'm a proud father. We're proud parents of 5 kids. 3 have graduated college. 1's going to go to college next year, and then our 14-year-old son will also go to college. That's our goal, that they all go to college or higher education, whatever they want to do. It's on them. We see it in them, and I see it more in them, and I see it like in those coaches I was talking about, people that are coming back to our program, and they're valuable people in society, right? That's hard. That's a trick question, right? Because they're putting back into society what you want to do. They get up, they work, they pay their bills, stuff like that. That's a simple society lesson. You get up, go to work, you pay your bills. People have done that forever. If you got people doing that every day, then the world's going right. But with our kids, the leaders they are, and I know I'm chiming on, I'm talking about my kids, but I see it in them. They're all productive adults. My son operates the sports operations for Dallas Youth Sports now. He's the director of sports operations, and he understands it. And I want him to do. I always want him to do better because I want him to be like me. But he's 25, right? Think about it for a minute. When I was 25, I wasn't doing what he was doing. Mm-hmm. I wasn't talking to our community. I was working at a company, trying to make a living, trying to take care of my wife and having kids, So I wasn't doing that. But he's running a nonprofit program that has over 900 volunteers every year, and there's always somebody doing something wrong somewhere. So he's trying to educate 30-year-old men not to do that. He's 25, so it's kind of a hard job. But my daughter also runs the community impact program of our side, and she's great at it. She's a psychology major, and she's great at what she does, just teaching different things. But I see that in them. They're hard workers. They learn it through sports, even though my daughter didn't like sports that much, but she went through it because we made her go through sports. We said, you got to do something. She picked up piano or theater after that. After she said, I don't want to do sports, I'm going to do theater. Okay, as long as you're doing something. And we just seeing them coming back and giving to the community and all the stuff that they do. And if you go to Oak Cliff and you ask about Crystal Huerta and Jacob Huerta, they know who they are because they do a lot of things for not just for us, just throughout the whole community. So.
So what key initiatives or projects are you currently involved in with Dallas Parks and Recreation Center as a board member?
So as a board member, in my particular across the city, there's tons of projects going on. You know, we got 400 parks in the city of Dallas, 43 rec centers, Fair Park, Arboretum, the zoo. When you think about all the high-profile parks that we have, there's always something going on. But in my particular district, there's two things that we're working on right now. We're going to have the second skate park in Dallas. It's going to be at location in Westmoreland, Illinois. That's soon to have the groundbreaking. Probably maybe by the end of this year, maybe beginning of next year, we're going to have a skate park there. And it's going to be a regional park, so it's not just going to be for the community. It's going to be a little bit bigger, and we're going to hopefully bring a lot of things going on there. But one of the biggest projects going on in here is the Southern Gateway Park. Soon to be renamed. It did get a $23 million donation for naming rights from the Hypern family, which is known as the Heritage Auction family. Have you ever heard of Heritage Auction? They do coins. They auction off coins and other items. But they donated $23 million. It was approved by the park board a couple weeks ago. The park will be renamed as Hypern Community Park. I think I could be wrong on the complete name, but so the Southern Gateway will be changing names here soon, and that'll get us over the top as far as finishing up the bill. But that project is scheduled to open at the beginning of 2026. But it's supposed to merge our community. When they built 35 going down the thing, they split our community. And that's how it became Oak Cliff and South Oak Cliff. It was all Oak Cliff at one time, and we just one big neighborhood. But they put 35 down the middle, and they split us. And so that's supposed to kind of bridge the gap. I don't know how much that's going to really do, but we'll have a park in between us. So now our brown and our black families can now merge back together versus being as diverse, as separate as we were, because we really were separate. South Oak Cliff was the black school, and Adamson High School at the time was named Oak Cliff School. It was the Hispanic school, and Sunset became the Anglo school. So if you see the history of Oak Cliff, how it was split it up. So yeah, we think those two projects are really going to do a lot here in our District 1. Among a few projects, we also got the Orlando Parish Park, which is on Keys and Cedar Crest. That's named after a gentleman here in Oak Cliff, and that'll be going to be getting some upgrades and refurbished. It was just a bunch of trees, so they're clearing out part of it. They're going to put a track and other stuff that's going to be really improved for the community.
Well, I probably won't be here to see the Gateway Park be complete, so it's fine.
And most of my projects will not be finished if I leave office. And I say office if my office, I hold my office because of Chad West at City Council District 1. He appointed me to it, and I was approved by the City Council. But if he doesn't get reelected, the new City Council might want somebody else in the office that I sit. So it's just kind of my volunteer board membership depends on elections. So it's some of that, right? So somebody might not want me there. Somebody might keep me there, but I only can serve 8 years consecutive on this board. And I am in my 5th year, I think, and next year will be my 6th. So.
Okay.
What strategies have you implemented to bring community concerns to the forefront in the Southern Gateway Community Advisory Council?
Yeah, so being on that council, I'm there as Dallas Youth Sports executive member, not as Dallas Park Board. I cannot serve, so I have 2 titles. I always tell everybody I got to keep them separate because Dallas Youth Sports does use City of Dallas fields. So we have this, and then I'm also as board member. So it's when I got on that advisory council, one of the biggest concerns that we saw was we didn't have a lot of minority input into what was going to be built on it. And so that's why the council came aboard was April Allen, and she brought a lot of us in. She invited a bunch of us. A lot of us took hold and we joined so we could have a voice and say, this is what we don't want this, we don't want that. And that's the biggest thing I can tell you young people. If somebody puts you on a table and you have a chance, even though you might be the only person of color on that table, if you're on that table, you have a voice. And you can put your concerns right away versus waiting for them to say, hey, we're going to build this, and then now you want to fight it at City Hall. That's really the wrong way to go about it. If you can get from an initial and hopefully you can develop a program or put your input in, that's actually the way to do it. So with Southern Gateway, we had a lot of input. Is it perfect? Nothing's ever going to be perfect. It's not going to please everybody 100%. But a lot of us got what we wanted on it. I got what I wanted. Somebody else got what they wanted. So it helped us all come to the table together and get the project going in the right direction. It's really hard to bring everybody in and try to do that. But that's really where you need to be at. If you can be on the table making a difference, raising your hand, asking questions, or just putting your input, that'd be great.
What advice would you give to younger generations looking to build their organization similar to yours?
So I've had a lot of people ask me, what do I give people advice? And I tell everybody, don't think you're gonna make money doing whatever you want to do. If you want to do sports, you want to do whatever you want to do. If you're starting your own business, there's no money to be made. You probably have to spend more money before you can make it. And one of the things that I learned is that as the first year when I started my sports organization, I bought 10 dozen baseballs, right? And we went through those pretty fast. I'd go buy 10 more, and I was buying retail, right? So as I got bigger, I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to use 100 dozen baseballs this year. So now I buy it in bulk. I buy 500 dozen baseballs, and I store them, and that way I can get them cheaper. I have leverage of buying. So when we did that, we also got other leagues. We became good partners with other leagues, and we started partnering up. Hey, you need 500, I need 500. Let's go to the company. We need 1,000. Now we get them $1 cheaper a dozen. Doesn't seem like a big difference, but that does save you money. And then as we got more and more people into the buying power, we get them cheap, all together. And we don't have to buy them all at once. The company actually now buys them and holds them for us, and we can just buy as we need, and we get them at a good price. Just the leverage of people coming together from across the Metroplex helped us get lower prices. But that's really the thing is just, as an entrepreneur, you're going to spend a lot more money the first year. The second year, it gets better than the third year, and hopefully you're still in business, because most people can't last the amount of time it takes you to really make real money. Most people give up after 2 years, maybe a year. But it takes about 5 years to really turn the tide in your business if you're going to be good at it. And it takes a lot of work. And my business did not excel. My program did not excel until after I left my full-time job. That's when it really excelled, which is about now 13 years ago.
So we're just about done with the interview. Right now we have a final fun question for you. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
So I thought about this, and I always say there's two people there's one person that I really admire, and just watching and knowing about civil rights and what the history of Dallas, and that was Martin Luther King. And I always say, people say, well, why is Martin Luther King your mentor? Shouldn't it be somebody Hispanic or somebody like that? Maybe Cesar Chavez and all that. But being in Dallas, you saw the civil rights violations that were happening here, and I got to see that. So Martin Luther King has always been somebody I always want to sit down. And I only have one question for him, and everything else I know what he did. And my thing is, how can you convince people not to be violent and take arms and fight? I want to know what he told them, how he passed that word. I know he used the word of God a lot to his program, but man, if somebody was doing that to me, I think I would pick up a stick and fight back or something. Yeah. And that's why I want to ask him, how did you do it? How did you convince so many people to stay the course and not be violent and try to get through this? And that'd be the biggest question I would have with him at dinner. And I'm pretty sure he'll go for a while and tell me what he did and how he convinced. I know it wasn't easy, but that's really who I would love to have dinner with.
Yeah, for me too. It's always been Martin Luther King, and I did a lot of projects on him. But yeah, when I heard you say it, I was like, oh, me too.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for today, Mr. Huerta. Thank you for taking the time to join us today and share your incredible journey with our listeners. Your dedication to empowering the youths through sports and community service is truly inspiring, and we appreciate the impact you've had on the community. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on social media and stay connected with all things Townview. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
My radio station.
We hope you enjoyed the great content and great discussion, all from a student's perspective. Make sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates at KSBM_TVT or on Facebook at KSBM Radio.
Add them on Facebook.
Check them on Facebook.
Take care.